So now I'm going to put you on the spot, since now you got your pack on.
Yeah, now you can hear me.
Yeah. What does empathetic leadership actually mean to you?
All right, so first of all, thank you for everyone who decided to join this session. I appreciate that you also stayed, because I know you could probably go and do other things right now, so thank you for staying. I think the funny thing about empathetic leadership is, first of all, I think it's a worn out term. I almost hate saying it on stage because it gets this emotional reaction from people.
You just got one from me.
Exactly.
I'm reading it right
Exactly. I think what it's not is it's not something where you have someone crying in your office every day. It's not something where you think that you're going to all of a sudden become weak just because you become an empathetic leader. But I think what it is pretty basic. And when I say basic, it's how do you actually take the time, which doesn't take a lot of time, to sit down and understand where an employee or employees are coming from and actually just listening to them. And sometimes that 1 minute or 2 minutes can make a world of difference for someone. And I think what happens is we get so busy in our jobs and we're so focused on achieving results or driving a project. There are cues people give you all of the time that will let you know something is not okay. And it's okay to not be okay, but what's not okay is having to pretend or be something that you're not, because then the truth doesn't come out. It won't come out for the project and it won't come out for them.
But so how do you redesign that, though? Right, we talk about digital transformation of companies, but you just mentioned a large part of what needs to be implemented. So how do you redesign the system or the culture, however you want to address it, to that degree to address that?
You know, this really comes down to each and every leader, because leaders have to create a space where people feel safe. They have to feel safe that they can come to work on bad days, and they have to feel safe that they can raise issues with projects. So it's not so much a redesign, but when you think about especially some of the organizations many of us have worked for, there's been a command and control at the top. No one loves that. In fact, now the entire workforce has changed. They see command and control, they're out the door. You have to actually be a leader that cares. You have to care about what you do and you have to care about your people. But again, if you even look at statistics, 78% of CEOs are afraid to become empathetic leaders because they think that being an empathetic leader makes you weak. But what people don't understand is it actually makes you strong. We all have empathy. We can all be empathetic. It's whether you have the courage to lean into it or not is the question.
And you mentioned that 78%, and I have to call out the biotech industry, very male-dominated, and I'm not trying to, it's clear that maybe they're not you. And you bring in this leadership, I would say, disruption to it. You've obviously been very successful of doing that right now. So not just to the biotech industry, what would you tell other industries that are listening to this to be that voice, to be, keeping calm and carrying on, because it is hard to do when others in the industry are status quo of going that route?
So that's a very insightful question. I think it's hard. And, for at least the earlier part of my career when I didn't have the experiences and I was younger, I failed quite a bit. And I lived in an environment where I felt like I had to be something that I wasn't. And I was told all the time, you've got to dress a certain way, you got to look a certain way in the boardroom or people aren't going to listen to you. But finally, when I got the confidence and I actually was me, that's when my career started flying, because I was hiding behind someone that I actually wasn't. And so for anyone out there that works for anybody who doesn't allow them to be who they are, you go somewhere else, you find something else, you get a different job. There's no reason why we should spend our lives not being who we are, and we shouldn't hide from it. Thank you.
So, Nicole, I see you clapping. So I'm going to now take this question of being who you are. You told me something which wasn't supposed to be a part of this conversation, but I'm going to share it. They figured out I'm going to share this. Every quarter, you give an award or a prize to people in the organization, in a town hall. Sorry if it's okay for me bringing it up.
That's okay.
Of being human. I'm simplifying it. Can you explain to the audience what that means and the joy that you get out of that?
So, when COVID hit, which unfortunately, if anyone read the news at that time, you might know that I was a part of a meeting that was blamed for bringing it into the country, where we all got very sick. We shut down operations before most people ever even thought COVID was actually coming here. They still thought it was over in a far, far away land, but it wasn't. And I was actually very sick from COVID when it first hit. And when we shut down operations, I saw, for a period of time, there's trust built. And, there was sort of, I say, chips that you could cash in because people knew each other. They were working together and the relationships were great. Then all of a sudden, after a year and a half, you started to see, or at least I did, deterioration in relationships, collaboration. I saw more infighting. And I realized people didn't feel joy anymore. I think people really almost had like a PTSD from all of this happening. And even though we all had brave faces, something was deeply affected. So I said, in my small part, what could I do to bring people joy? And so I said, what are the things as a child that, or what my parents would always want? My mother always wanted Ed McMahon to come to the house for Publishers Clearinghouse, and I always wanted to find that golden ticket in a chocolate bar and go to Willy Wonka. So I created an award called the Gratitude Tour, or the Golden Ticket Award, where we had a life-size golden ticket that we would fly around the country. And if you were a good human being,
Hold on, repeat that again.
if you were a good human being, it had nothing to do with results. It had nothing to do with work. It had to do with the people around you saying you go above and beyond for families, friends, community, how much you contribute, basically, that you speak up. You didn't have to be a great performer. You just had to be a good person. And we would set it up so we would surprise them somewhere. They literally would almost pass out, tears. We filmed it all, and we would then show it at a town hall on who we would surprise. And this thing, had so much traction because not only did that person get the joy, we had people on camera interviewed, telling why this person was going to win this award. And then at the end, everyone watching it would be in tears because they're like, how awesome to be awesome. And then we'd send them away for a weekend with a loved one. And the trip was supposed to be to celebrate basically your awesomeness as a human being. And what it did is it elevated people to become more gracious, to have a little more grace, to have a little more patience, to listen, to want to problem solve. And it really changed the dynamic of the culture because, people realized that we put a lot of value on just being a good human and being kind to each other during a time that was really difficult for a lot of people.
And thank you for sharing that, because to me, empathetic leadership is the definition of what you just said, right? There's all of what you just said. Obviously, they still got to do their goals in business, but to really call out their personal life to be able to integrate versus the opposite way, that's really great. I know we've got 4 minutes. I don't know if you have any questions. Perfect. Yeah, if you guys want to post a question, you can. Otherwise, I got a whole bunch of questions, so you don't have to worry about that. The other thing that I want you to share, when it comes to just leadership in general, where do you think how is it going to evolve, right? We keeping calm and carrying on. We're identifying the things that we have issues with, but what do you feel is the next? I don't want to say wave or trend because that word, I don't like that. But really, what do we have to evolve to from where we are today?
I think, after what we went through, all of the social crises, COVID, Black Lives Matter. I mean, there was so many dramatic emotional things that many people went through. Social skills and being able to connect and being able to have like a sense of belonging for people is now becoming much more important. And I know people talk about the hybrid environment versus remote environment, but if you're not in an environment or working somewhere where you feel like you belong or that people see and hear you, you kind of don't, put in that extra effort. It's just a job. And you want people to love what they're doing every single day. So I do think that with these, younger generation, they're so much quicker to flip jobs. They're so much quicker to leave because they want to feel like they belong and they're contributing on a higher level. So I feel like we're going to have to find a way to provide that. And all of us have a different role to play, obviously, for that.
All right, we're going to be playing Ryan's lightning round.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I know that that I do this. So I'm going to change it up just a tad. I'm going to ask you two. Is that okay?
Okay.
You don't have a choice. I'm sitting right
All
here
right.
now.
I just answer.
You just answer.
I just answer.
You just answer.
Okay.
All right. How do you keep calm and carry on?
I need quiet time. So because I'm usually talking or in boardrooms or making decisions all day long, I definitely need that time to sort of reset and
So if we were here, would you go in a different room? How would you find, how do you just make time? Do you just 20 minutes, 10 minutes?
I mean, I only need like 5 minutes, but like, we have a prayer room at work. We have offices that obviously aren't used. We have a very sort of, a space that tends to be more peaceful in nature.
Leave your phone in a different room?
Oh, yeah, I've got to get away from all electronics, Apple Watches, all of that. We're needed all the time by everybody. But, I think just a couple moments of having, for yourself is a big deal. That is how I do it in the moment. But, I do think that there's a much bigger picture that everyone, especially under very high stress jobs, there are little things you've got to do all the time to sort of keep up with that because, unfortunately, we're not getting any younger.
Well, I know I appreciate you coming here because I know afterwards you're going to be spending time with your team in the area, right? So I know you don't have that much time, but appreciate taking some of your downtime with us. And lastly, the future of empathetic leadership is blank. I'll read it again. The future of empathetic leadership is
All of you. That would be my answer. It's everyone in this room and everyone that you know. If we really want to do this, we have to do it together. It shouldn't be me sitting on a stage talking about it, right? It should be, this is what people do.
I don't know what else to say after that because I think that's a great way to end the conversation. I appreciate you. I think
I appreciate you.
I think the leadership that we see from you in the biotech industry, a leader like you can transcend, which obviously will transcend other industries. And so I'm hoping everyone in the audience who work in different industries can take a couple takeaways that you mentioned and go back. So thank you for being your candor, and thank you for sharing and coming down here, flying from the East Coast down to see us.
Yeah,
So thank you so much.
And thank you for everyone for staying. I appreciate it.